you expect water to be blue. On Middle Island, it is barely 3 meters between the Southern Ocean's deep blue water ahead and a lake the color of neon bubblegum behind you. This is not an optical illusion. The water in Lake Hillier stays pink, even in a jar. That pink is just the start. Across Australia, lakes can turn blue, milky white, or shocking magenta. They flip the rules of geography each time rain arrives or the sun returns. If Australia's landscapes can break basic laws like color, what else about this continent have maps taught you wrong? Let's step beyond the edge of certainty. Stand on the sand where the Southern Ocean meets Lake Hillier, and the contrast is immediate. Salt air, seaweed tang, and then a strip of water so pink it looks artificial. The color is not a trick of the light or a reflection off the sky. Scoop up the water in your hands and it stays pink. Pour it into a glass jar and it glows like melted candy. No matter how you try to explain it away, the pink is real and it is permanent for now, until nature decides otherwise. The secret is not hidden in the surface, but in the salt. Lake Hillier is as saline as the Dead Sea, a place where almost nothing survives except the toughest microorganisms. Inside this hypersaline brine, tiny life forms are at work. Dunaliella salina, a single-celled alga, survives here by producing beta-carotene, the same pigment that makes carrots orange. In Lake Hillier, the pigment builds up in such high concentrations that it saturates the water itself, coloring it from the inside out. Alongside the algae, Salinobacter ruber bacteria thrive, and they produce their own red pigments. Together, they create a chemical cocktail so intense that the pink remains, even when water is removed from the lake. This is not a surface bloom or a passing phase. The color does not fade when the water leaves the shore. It endures because the pigments are chemically stable, suspended in the salt, immune to time and travel unless heavy rain dilutes the lake and the pink slips away. For now, 3 meters of sand is all that stands between the deep blue of the ocean and a pool of living color that refuses to conform. In a world where water is supposed to be blue, Lake Hillier does not ask for permission. It just is. Lake Hillier isn't alone. From space, Australia is scattered with lakes that turn pink, blue, and white in a cycle that never quite repeats itself. In Western Australia, South Australia, and Victoria, salt lakes flicker like signals, some barely a puddle, others stretching for kilometers. Their colors are never permanent. After heavy rain, a pink lake can turn blue almost overnight. The fresh water dilutes the salt and the pigments fade as the microorganisms lose their grip. For a while, the lake looks ordinary, just another patch of water on the map. But as the sun returns and evaporation begins, the water shrinks, salinity climbs, and the brine thickens. Halophiles, those salt-loving bacteria and algae, bounce back, and the pink returns, sometimes even more intense than before. If you arrived a week earlier, you'd see blue. Wait a month, and the lake might be milky white as salt crystals start to form and scatter the light. The color that ends up on satellite images, postcards, or tourist brochures is just a snapshot, one frame in a moving story. Time-lapse images from satellites like Sentinel and Landsat show these lakes shifting from blue to white to pink and back again, year after year. What you see depends entirely on when you look. Australia's pink lakes are not exceptions. They're reminders that the continent's geography is in constant motion. Maps try to pin them down, but the real landscape is always slipping away, changing color, and rewriting itself with every season. Step off the scorched street in Coober Pedy, and the world changes. Above ground, the heat is so intense that steering wheels blister skin and shoes melt into the pavement. Thermometers on the surface read 52 degrees Celsius. Nothing moves unless it has to. But open a door carved into the hillside, and a different reality waits. Inside, the air sits at a steady 23 degrees Celsius. No fans, no air conditioning, just the slow, silent work of rock absorbing and releasing heat. The walls are cool to the touch. Shelves and furniture are chiseled straight from sandstone. Here, the earth itself acts as insulation, holding back the violence of the sun. About 60% of the town lives like this, underground. Not just homes, but shops, churches, even bars, all hidden beneath the dust. Residents joke that the safest place in summer is a dugout. On the hottest days, even paramedics wait below until the sun relents. At night, people emerge to work, mine, and socialize, returning underground before the heat returns. In Coober Pedy, survival is not about fighting the elements. It is about outsmarting them, using the physics of thermal inertia to turn a hostile desert into a place you can call home. In Queensland's Channel Country, the land waits for rain that may not come for years. When the monsoon finally breaks, water travels across hundreds of kilometers of dust and cracked earth, tracing ancient riverbeds that look empty on any map. A grazier stands on the porch and watches as trickles gather, then surge, transforming dry paddocks into a moving sheet of water. The flood does not rush, it creeps, filling every hollow, linking rivers that seemed long dead. By the time it reaches South Australia, the water pours into Lake Eyre, a salt pan so vast it disappears over the horizon. Most years, the lake is nothing but blinding white crust. But after rare floods, it becomes an inland sea. Fish spawn in the new shallows. Birds arrive in flocks from thousands of kilometers away, and dormant life explodes into action. For a few weeks or months, the desert is alive with noise and color. Then the sun returns, water evaporates, and Lake Eyre shrinks back to salt. The boom is over, the oasis gone. Miss this window, and you would never know the transformation was possible. For most, Lake Eyre is always dry. For those who catch it full, it is proof that Australia's geography runs on cycles, not certainties. On the Kimberley coast in Western Australia, the ocean refuses to behave. Twice every day, tides surge more than 10 meters in Talbot Bay, among the biggest tidal swings on the planet. That much water can't just slip quietly between islands. Instead, it is forced through two sandstone gorges, each barely wider than a city street. The result is not a waterfall in the usual sense, it is a horizontal torrent, a river running sideways, blasting through the gap at speeds up to 30 kilometers per hour. At its peak, the water level on one side of the gorge stands nearly 4 meters higher than the other. The pressure is so intense that the ocean appears to fall horizontally, whitewater boiling as it squeezes through the first gap, and then the second. Then, as the tide reverses, everything flips. Water that was rushing in now gets shoved back out, and the falls seem to climb uphill, defying every rule you expect from gravity. This is not a trick or an illusion. It is pure hydraulics, geometry, and tidal force, colliding so violently that the ocean itself cannot decide which way to flow. The Kimberley's horizontal falls are a reminder that even something as fundamental as water knows how to break the script, if the land is strange enough. Lightning Ridge doesn't advertise itself. Above ground, it's tin roofs and dust. But underfoot, miners descend 20 or 30 meters into rock laid down when dinosaurs still walked here. In these shafts, the ordinary becomes impossible. Water rich in silica seeped through Cretaceous sediments for millions of years, filling voids left by ancient bones and shells. Instead of decaying, some fossils were replaced, molecule by molecule, bone for opal, until a vertebra or shell flashes with neon fire. A miner's hands might cradle a piece of deep time, a dinosaur bone, now iridescent blue and green, worth more than gold and older than memory. Rain falls in the Gibson Desert, and the ground answers instantly. Seeds that have waited for years burst open, and within days, bare gravel becomes a field of wildflowers, yellow, purple, white, stretching as far as the eye can see. The desert only receives about 200 to 250 millimeters of rain a year, most of it in sudden summer storms. That's just enough to trigger the hidden seed bank below the surface. The bloom is brief. As the soil dries, petals drop, seeds scatter, and the desert returns to silence. Miss the moment, and you would never know it happened at all. On Rottnest Island, 10,000 quokkas thrive only because foxes and cats never made the crossing. One wrong arrival could erase them. Then cross the Nullarbor by train, nearly 500 kilometers arrow straight, horizon unchanged, where distance and absence bend reality more than any map ever could. Australia's landscape refuses to stay still, shifting color, water, and life on its own terms. Even now, satellite images struggle to keep up. In a world craving certainty, this continent reminds us that reality is always stranger than the map. Stay curious. What else might you be seeing wrong?